Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Limitless MD, the podcast that helps you get freedom, wealth, and human optimization. I'm your host, Dr. Vikram Raya, and I'm excited to talk about a super key trait of all high performers, and that is how to make great decisions quickly. And if you're like me, you know, every day is full of decisions. In fact, we have something called decision fatigue, and we want to avoid that by sort of delegating, deleting, or automating sort of mundane decisions, but things that really will require our energy, our time, that may pivot us in life, which may help navigate us to a greater destiny and future. You want to dig into those decisions and make sure you make the right one. So how do you do this, right? And so I've read some things from Harvard Business School. I've looked and leaned upon my own experience as an entrepreneur, as a physician, as a father, as a husband, and as an entrepreneur. And this is what I've came up with. And so I want to share this with you right now. These are the 4 big key topics on how to make good or great decisions very quickly. What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? My name is Vikram Raya, functional cardiologist, high performance coach, and real estate expert. And I'm here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life so you can unlock your limitless potential and achieve greatness, all the while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in. Number 1 is having this hell yes or hell no attitude. What does that mean? So what that means is when you hear a decision, what does your gut intuition, overall emotional state tell you about the 2 choices? If you're super excited about it and you're like chomping at the bit, it's a no-brainer. You say hell yes and you move forward on that decision. But if you're not sure, or it doesn't excite you, or it's just not the ultimate juice of life, then you should sort of lean toward no. Okay. And this is just a general barometer or rubric of how to view these decisions in the right lens. Next is what I call a rocking chair test. So think about it. You're 80 or 90 years old, and you've lived a magnificent life, and you're sitting in your rocking chair thinking about your life. Well, that decision that you're thinking about, and if you had made it when you're at 80, 90, you're probably thinking about that decision pretty fondly, even if it didn't turn out exactly, you're glad you did it. But if you're sitting in the rocking chair and you're regretting not making that decision, this is the kind of sort of future pacing that will lend you to say, hey, man, I should have done that. So in most cases, people have more regrets of not doing something than doing something. So just something to think about. The next topic of that is maybe if you know your core values, what drives you, what's important to you as a person, to your family, and what are your potentially your 1-year goals. If you look at those 3 things and look at your decision, hey, is that if I take this big decision on, will that get me toward my goals or away from my goals? Hey, is that in adherence to my core values? If your core values to be a great dad, but this is requiring you to, and that means spending time with your children, and the decision requires you to travel, 3 days out of the week, every week, maybe it's not the right decision, right? So using that filter is quite helpful. If your decision is to, blow up your medical practice, your clinic, or potentially create a second 6-figure income in real estate, for example, but the decision is taking on a directorship of a hospital that will add some nominal amount of income and take a lot of time, then you may want to question it. Hey, that's actually not allowing me to hit some of my 1-year goals. Maybe this is not the right decision for me, right? And so this is some of the decision trees that you use in your brain to help decipher the right choice. And number 4, I got this from James Clear, and he says this. And James Clear, for you guys who don't know, is one of my favorite authors. He wrote the book Atomic Habits, which is a game changer. It's the kind of book you may want to read, put down, think about it, and about 2 or 3 months later, pick it up again and read it again. He says, if a decision is reversible, the biggest risk is moving too slow. If a decision is irreversible, the biggest risk is moving too fast. So when you're thinking about decisions, if in general, you can come back from it. It's not a big deal. The gravitas of the decision is, on the low end. Then make it quickly and move on, and course correct along the way. And you can always potentially reverse yourself or correct if it was not the right decision. Now, if the decision is absolutely irreversible, then you want to marinate on the decision. You want to get multiple views, perspectives, but still act relatively quickly, right? The goal is not to just delay the decision at all. That is not going to help you. Within, 24, 36, 48 hours, whatever you need, make that decision and move on. And so those are the sort of the big things. And I'll give you an example of this. So I wanted to take my family on a trip, and I wanted this trip to be sort of a magic experience, one of those lifetime memories. And so we've decided to take a month and go to Italy. And so, running companies, having business partners, starting several, streams of income and entrepreneurships, that's a challenge. But, I really believe in exercising these freedoms that I say that I want to pursue or that I have. And so one of them is time freedom. One of them is geographic freedom and financial freedom. So I'm like, all right, well, that by going on this trip, I get to experience all three of those. Right. And another question is, should I take it easy, take it care, should I monitor my expenses, or should I just go all out and create sort of a lifetime magical moment? And, when I go through it, is it a hell yes or no? I'm thinking more of this could be a hell yes kind of thing. Rocking chair, if I'm 90, I probably won't care if I spent, X amount versus X times 20% more, right? I'll be like, man, that was such an amazing trip. And I'll still be talking about it 10, 20 years later. And I filtered through it, my core values. Well, my family is my core value. The freedoms are my core value. Exploring and experiences more than material things are my core value. Well, it fits that. My 1 year goal, this was on my vision board to do a trip like this. And finally, is the decision reversible versus irreversible? Well, if I make the decision to go and we end up, COVID happens, something happens, well, I can't go, fine. So it can be reversed in some shape or form. So based on the rubric I just shared with you, it's a go for this trip. And so I'm doing it, right? So this is an example of doing that. Another example is maybe starting a podcast, right? I was going back and forth, but I'm like, in the end, do I really want to have the podcast? The question then became, yes, I think it's super important. Number two, would I regret not having it? Well, knowing all of my friends who've done podcasts and the impact it's had, yes, potentially I have a regret. And my core values, it's to have impact, it's to educate, it's to empower, and it's to pay it forward all the mentors and gurus and coaches and people who've helped me. Now, if I can take some of my learning and knowledge and pay it forward, what's a better way than this? And people say, oh, there's too many podcasts out there, it's too saturated. Well, that's true in the people who started episode 1. But when you look at episode 100 or episode 500, there's not that many good podcasts out there. So if you have consistency and sustainability and what I call lasting excellence, you will stand out. And the thing is, you don't need to be known by everyone. You just need to be known by the tribe that you're trying to help and trying to serve. And then finally, is the decision reversible? Look, I can start a podcast and I can stop it in a year and say, hey, it was just actually season 1. That's all we have. Or, we do it in 2 to 3 years and, then I have another host take over. So using that same rubric, I ended up starting this podcast. So give you 2 good examples of decision trees that I had to go through to make these sort of critical decisions. And if this was helpful, guys, I'm really excited to continue doing these little solo casts. I call them these little juicy appetizers in between my interviews of key people who are going to teach us about freedom, wealth, and human optimization. And if you want more, I am launching PWA, Physician Wealth Accelerator. This is where we're going to have, all the tribe, different people on hot seats. We'll have guests. Some people win becoming a guest on the podcast. There will be master classes on wealth creation, on creating more free time, on creating businesses, on pivoting and adding extra streams of income, or adding, creating passion businesses and purpose businesses. And I'll be giving you sort of my best content there as well. So we're also creating a special app for the Limitless tribe, and that'll be available. And so and also for the first people who join the Physician Wealth Accelerator, I've created a new a tool called the Personal Limitless Compass. And this is a sort of an organizer that will help you navigate everything you want on one page: your visions, your values, your beliefs, your 10-year goals, 3-year goals, 1-year goals, what you need to start doing, what you need to stop doing, who's in your corner, what are the milestones so you can hit all your goals. And the beautiful thing is it's all on one simple page. And so if you have this in front of you, I guarantee you success. So look out for that. And with that, guys, I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Continue to be phenomenal, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below or simply visit vikramraya.com. So until next time, my friends, be phenomenal.